welcome to the live stream. I just poured hot tea on myself seconds before we were gonna go live, but luckily Dora was able to vamp for me on the kitten cam. She's very cute. Yeah, look at this kitten cam right now. Yeah, I mean, it was my fault. I tried to pick up a thing of very fresh tea immediately upon that. Luckily it was a very small part of my hand, but yep. I had just made the tea and had put it into an insulated cup, but I hadn't put the lid on yet, so. Yes, sparkly balls have not been hatched yet. They are being insulated. They mostly get moved as opposed to hatched. There's a lot on the floor of our apartment right now. Yesterday, we had friends that were stopping by to pick something up, and they were like, oh, can we visit Dora? So we speed tidied the house because we haven't actually had anyone else in our house since February 2020, I guess. We've had the maintenance person has come like once from our property manager, but other than that, like nobody else has been in this house. And so we were like, oh my gosh, we have to tidy. But when we were tidying, I just discovered how many sparkly balls there are. There were just so many sparkly balls. So I guess thematically, I haven't actually said what our topic is yet today, which is budgeting with ADHD and money with ADHD. And I'm doing it mostly because it's Budgetober on the Oh My Dollar forums. I wore these pumpkin earrings to get us in the Halloween spirit. And I figured it was good to, I've talked a lot about strategies for money with ADHD as part of other topics, for, the budgeting with depression and how to care about your money when nothing is okay, and lots of different other like kind of impulse spending episodes, but we haven't actually collected all of the strategies for money with ADHD in one place. So in addition to soliciting some suggestions from people in the Oh My Dollar community and my own knowledge of both finances and what it is like to live with an ADHD brain, I thought it would be interesting to put these all in one place. And hopefully that will help some people during Budgetober, because I know that several people on the forums that are part of Budgetober this month, which is our fun-ish Halloween-themed group budgeting challenge that we do every October. There are quite a few people that expressed that like the reason they were doing it, or the reason that they kind of needed a tune-up, was because they struggle with all of the wonderful things that come with an ADHD brain. So Dean says, imagining a fun time lapse with much chaos and sparkly balls. I think the sparkly balls are it's so anticlimactic to clean them up, because they really are quite tiny. So it doesn't like look like you've made a ton of progress. So you're just like vacuuming. Oh, I found another one. Oh, I found another one. So, welcome though. Thank you all for joining. I have to apologize because I didn't really have a good strategy for this donut, but this donut is worth experiencing. But I'm going to tell you first what happened to it before I show it off, which is that it had cream on the top, but I get the donuts right when the donut shop opens at 7 a.m. Don't live stream till 5 p.m. And I usually just get them because I don't want to wait in line. They often have really long queues. So I go down, get it right when they open, and then grab it. But I was like, oh, there's this cream on the top of this donut, and it was like this tall. And so I put it in the fridge, which held on to the cream quite well, but then it was really cold. So I tried to put it in the toaster oven, and I knew this was probably going to happen, but it really happened, which was, of course, because I forgot about it, because ADHD brain, this cream is totally melted, but whatever. I think it adds to the spookiness. So this donut is a pumpkin pie donut with a gray spiced cream, and every single donut this month is black or gray. So these are pumpkin pie chunks on the top, and then that's pumpkin topping, but it looks like black because it is black. And then the cream that is now decorating the top is a kind of like a pumpkin pie spice flavor. So we have that to look forward to when we get too tired of talking about budgeting. How is everyone doing this week? How are you adjusting? I'm going to try to sip this tea and hopefully not burn myself before we dive into some of the budgeting ideas. I started writing the script and like the notes because I don't work off like a full script for the live streams like I do for the show. But I started writing the notes up for this and I just realized how many things I have. So it's definitely going to be very long. So I'll try to keep it interesting because I am trying to appeal to people with ADHD. So, we'll have a donut break, probably have another kitten break. She's finished her bath, so it's now nap time. So yeah, we'll be all over the place. I like to imagine one of these cats is on here. Oh, she's not on here. I thought this cat was on here. There's like a little laser cat. I put it on the thumbnail for this, and I feel like it accurately conveys things. Hello, Journaling Broom. Because I know you came from the Hobonichi live stream, I would like to point out that once again, I put the Hobonichi in the background just as a shout out to the planner people that may show up. I am actually planning on doing a plan with me. I filmed it, but I haven't done the voiceover yet, so we'll see when it happens. I would like to actually post it on this channel. I would like to have more planner stuff. Melty Ghost Pumpkin Donut. Yeah, pretty much. That's the vibe that we're going for. It's okay. It's keeping with the spooky theme. I feel like we've got like the full spooky situation going on here. Alana Bennett says, yes, Hobonichi. I'm glad that you're here for the Hobonichi. I keep wondering if I just need to turn into a planner YouTube channel. Y'all are so nice. Maybe I should just abandon this whole finance thing after 5 years and become a planner YouTuber. I fear that maybe I'm not I'm not artistic enough to be a planner YouTuber. Like I think most of the people that make like really phenomenal content on planning, they're all like calligraphers or like have a lot of stickers or whatever, and I have pretty I have like some stickers, but I have like a pretty minimal planning style, so Abel Jack says, I'm not nice, back to budgets. I'm glad to know that you are always here to say no to the stickers and no to the planners, Abel Jack. Alana says, I'm here for it all. I can appreciate a real planner. Well, thanks. I have been my weekly, so I don't have the overhead cam set up today, so it really won't be possible to show this off very much. But I will say that something I'm doing right now, we may be able to get this to adjust a little bit better. So this is this week's planner spread, and I am color coding now for all of my different work-related stuff. So I have a different color for my day job, for Oh My Dollar, for studying because I'm taking a German class as well as studying for a Series 65, and then I have the little graphs. So, it's somewhat decorated, but it's pretty minimal on that. And then my daily spreads are like absolutely undecorated. The only thing decorated about them is that I have I use a fountain pen, I guess, and I try to like highlight the little topics areas, but it's really not very decorated. So God, mutation looks exhausting. Wait, what? Mutation? What do you mean mutation? Autocorrect is strange tonight. Wait, what looks exhausting though if it's not mutation? Oh yeah, I also color code skating, but I don't color code like time off because I like to think about it from the perspective of things that I track hours for. So I actually track all my hours using Toggle as well, and then at work I have to track them using Harvest, which is our like billing software because I work billable hours at my day job. But I enjoy getting to see that spread because I don't really get to see the weekly view very often. And all these things work together. So I don't track like my skating time in Toggle because I don't consider it work, even though it is something that I do track the hours. Anyway, I track things in a lot of places. The planner looks exhausting to me. None of it is particularly time consuming. Like I see some people who spend quite a lot of time planning and I don't. So, Dean says I literally had to just look up what kind of planner this is, but even I as a plebe can appreciate those pages. Yeah, it's a Hobonichi, which is like probably one of the more expensive planner niches to get into. I did multiple live streams on the Hobonichi and my choice to get it, and also like how planners cost a lot of money. So if you want to dive into those, but I am going to hopefully post a plan with me. Anyway, thank you budgeting or planner people for showing up to the budgeting live stream. Should we dive in? I can smell this donut and all I want to do is eat it. So we have to get through this budgeting stuff. All right. So I guess like first off thing to say is that these are simply suggestions. Everyone's ADHD brain is different. What works for me might not work for you. What works for other ADHD people might not work for me. Everybody has a different kind of thing that works for them. And ADHD comes with the complexities that all human brains do. And it's all often comes in tandem with other kinds of mental health concerns. So it often comes with anxiety, OCD, depression, and those have different things, different strategies that you might need to embrace when it comes to dealing with your money that may mean that some of these solutions don't work for you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of throw out some of the different categories of things to think about, common places where people with ADHD struggle around financial things, and then different solutions that may work. You know yourself better than I know. And if you don't have ADHD, but there are areas that you struggle with remembering dates, struggle with prioritizing, you find that you like get really overwhelmed with financial tasks and you put them off, like some of these strategies might work for you, even if you are not someone with ADHD. That being said, like the reason that I've put this together is that I found that a ton of my audience does have ADHD, and a lot of people with ADHD find my show. And the reason they find my show and that my show works for them is that one of the things I don't do is say you have to do it this way every time. And if you don't, you're a failure. Because some other financial theories, practices, radio show hosts, not to name names, are very much like, this is the only right way to do it. And if you're not doing it that way, you're not doing it the right way. And the thing about money is it's important to remind yourself that it is just an exchange of value. And not succeeding at financial things does not mean that you failed as a person. It also doesn't mean that you're like not going to succeed forever. This is entirely based on what you want to do with your money, where you want to get value out of your money. And it is not just because you haven't had success with finances in the past doesn't mean you're destined to never have success with them. You just have to find the things that you care about, focus on them. Focus, such a hard thing to say when it comes to ADHD, but focus on them by using strategies that work for your brain, and then just like let go of whatever societal baggage that has come about what you feel like may make you feel inadequate or like might reflect on your own self-value, that is just because financial systems are not set up for ADHD brains. So I like that is my like recommendation is the first thing is don't get caught up in doing things right or wrong, and don't get caught up in living in your past stories. Like just because you've been late with taxes every year of your adulthood does not mean you have to be late this year. It also doesn't mean that it's bad necessarily. There are people that go their entire life filing the extension for taxes every single year, and you know what? That's fine. You just created yourself a new deadline every year. That is okay. Alana says, everything planner related is expensive, which is why I'm here for budgeting help. Oh, yes. So true. And if you are deep in the planner world, I also think strategies for impulse spending, which we are going to talk about, are extremely important. As someone who spent quite a lot of money on planner stickers this month, but it was budgeted for this week. I actually did it on Friday. So spent a lot of money, but I used the strategies that I'm going to talk about when it comes to spending and places that you tend to overspend, and I feel okay about it. Stephanie says, I started trying to do a weekly planning hour, and I had a lot of trouble keeping it up. Financial planning or like actual like planner side of things. Iris Bear says, I write things in my planner and my budget, and then I don't look at it again until I've done the opposite of what I've planned. Lol. Yes, I am familiar with that. Okay. So, I looked at like quite a lot of peer-reviewed research around ADHD and financial matters, and most of them found that ADHD adults have at least a perception that they're worse at financial decision making, and that healthy controls were one of the big issues. Once you controlled for personality and circumstances and other factors, ADHD adults weren't actually making worse financial decisions based on objective measures. This actually came from a peer-reviewed study that just came out this month that I was looking at. So, when you actually control for some other factors, ADHD adults are not destined to be worse at this. The big thing is that ADHD adults do a lot of second guessing. And one of the reasons that we do a lot of second guessing is because executive function is a thing a lot of ADHD people struggle with. And executive function is quite simply like the ability to put things in order, the ability to prioritize. This is something that I really, really struggle with when it comes to my time. So in addition to having the fun side of time blindness, where if I start a task, I'll have no idea how long it has been, which I compensate for with all of these timers and the fact that I track my time in so many places. One of the things that can happen for a lot of ADHD people is that they'll be like, I want to work on this goal and this goal and this goal and this financial goal. And then all of a sudden that they haven't made any progress on any of those goals because, money is a finite resource for almost all of us. There is a limit to, you have a budget constraint. And so being able to work on all of those goals simultaneously means that you often make no progress on any of them. And so for a lot of us, like, just figuring out how we want to structure our financial goals can feel really challenging to people, and it can make them second guess themselves a lot. So there's my first strategy for trying to make yourself actually prioritize financial things is that a lot of ADHD brains will find boring or repetitive tasks painful. So kind of neurotypical people might find a boring or repetitive task to be boring and repetitive, but for a lot of ADHD people, it can feel physically painful to just try to focus on something that is boring, repetitive. And then one of the issues with that is that if you know that something is going to be boring and repetitive, you'll put it off and off and off until it actually becomes urgent. And then when it becomes urgent, you can prioritize it, but you might, half-ass it. You might slap dashes together. But you know what ADHD brains do like? They like reward. So the normal kind of structure in behavioral economics is the carrot and the stick. The carrot is the reward that you give to yourself for doing something that you need to do. And the stick is the punishment that you give to yourself for not doing the thing or for doing something bad. It doesn't work as well for the ADHD brain because we are not great at prioritizing future rewards. We don't find them as motivating as we do as taking pleasure in something now. So, this is the strategy. Find a system for budgeting and financial management that gives you that novelty now. You need to reward yourself in the moment for doing the boring and repetitive task. So there's a couple different ways that you can integrate novelty into your financial system. I found a couple ways that work. So for me, I need very color-based budgeting. I need to see negative things be red and I need to see positive things be green. And that's because I respond extremely well to visual stimuli. I like to see things out in front of me. I sometimes like to just stare at the graphs of my net worth because I'm so like satisfied in them. Um, so let me actually, if possible, I'm going to try to show off. I just thought that I would show what my, am I able to do this? Okay. So I'm going to show off what, just very briefly, what my YNAB budget is. And YNAB does not work for all ADHD people because I am also quite detailed. I was also diagnosed with OCD, so I got lots of fun things up in the brain. But I do like a lot of detail, but I also need a lot of novelty. So I use tons of emojis. This is just like one section of my budget. I also use a lot of fun categories for myself. So I have a wish farm that I can fill with things that I want in the future. And I use lots of fun emojis because, you know, it's harder for me to be incentivized by future rewards. I also recommend apps like there is the app in my pocket, which is called Pocket Guard, and that will give you a safe to spend level. I used to recommend the level app for people that need just a tangible thing in front of their face. And that one will just give you what you are okay to spend that day after accounting for all of your core financial needs. So you set up the budget one time when you are focused, when you are calm, when you are thinking about your priorities, you're having a good brain day, you sit down, set up the basics, and then you got that impulse thing. So the next thing I recommend when it comes to this is, oh no, now I've lost my notes. See, we're doing great over here. Okay, so so I use emojis in my budget line, very color-based budgeting. You can do that in a spreadsheet, you could do that in YNAB, you could do that in a number of different apps like Mint. Last week we did the big roundup of all of the budgeting apps that everyone reviewed in the budgeting app games. There was over 30 that we looked at. So go back and watch that if you need some kind of thing to kind of get an idea of what app might work for you. If you are someone who likes really tangible things, consider something like coloring in debt trackers or savings trackers. If you like pencils and paper and really fun things, but you still want to work on a financial goal, find a way to give yourself immediate rewards. So every time you pay $50 towards your student loan, you get a color in a box or you get a pull off a chain. Do something that creates a physical reward. So, you know, find a way to create a like ritual around the boring parts of your money that also come with some sort of fun things. Abel Jack says, what is the name of that app? I stopped paying attention. It is Pocket Guard. I also recommend when you are thinking about doing something that you cannot have an immediate reward. So something like, you know, you're saving up for a vacation, you're saving up for buying something that you can't afford right now, but you want to be able to afford. Putting a small sticker on your credit card, on your debit card, on your wallet, somewhere where you're going to see it, that reminds you what you are saving for or that something is part of your savings plan. But making sure that you change it often enough that you don't become blind to it. Because one problem that I ran into is, you know, I'd put a sticker on my debit card that says, do you really want to spend this money? And, you know, I'd like put it on there, but I just didn't see it anymore because that is one of the wonders of ADHD is that if something isn't novel, your brain can block it out. So I recommend doing something where you can change it up, create some sort of ritual. Okay, so first, reward novelty. Find a way to make the actual boring part of your finances be novel. That could be fun colors, some sort of app that changes things for you. One thing I really like about Credit Karma is I get cute GIFs every time I pay my credit card. That I find motivating. I know it's very It's very low key, but I enjoy getting GIFs every time I pay off my credit card. Next is 2. Make it so that you do not have to track everything. So a lot of very detail-oriented stuff can be really challenging for a lot of ADHD brains. Um, I recommend finding a system that does something at the level of tracking you're willing to do. And if you are not willing to track your expenses at all, see if you can set up some sort of automatic account method. So that could be having 3 different accounts. One account, all of your bills come out. And so your paycheck gets split into 3 accounts. It puts the amount that you need for your auto pay for all of your core expenses in your main account for bills. The next account maybe gets 20% of your expenses is for discretionary things like or things that change like groceries. And then the last account is your savings. So maybe it gets 10% or something like that. And just have it kind of auto split into those. You can also make it so that you do get a budgeting app, but that app is, instead of being proactive, is reactive. So something like Mint that auto tracks, something like YNAB that automatically imports if you're willing to go through and kind of manually account for all of those. Creating something where you do not have to track everything. Cash envelope systems work extremely well for a lot of folks with ADHD. If you don't know what a cash envelope system is, essentially it is you splitting up all of your expenses. It could be everything you spend, or it could be just the sort of things that make sense to spend in cash, or the things you struggle with control with. So that could be planner spending, it could be at the grocery store, it could be restaurant spending, bar spending, whatever it might be for you. Something that is gas spending, something that kind of fluctuates. And you take that money out of your main account on a weekly or a monthly basis. You divide it into the envelopes. And then when the envelope is empty, you can't spend any more money in that category unless you pull it out of another envelope. And that gives you a really tangible feeling. There are apps that do the cash envelope system. Essentially, YNAB is one of them. Envelopes is another one. There are a lot of different kind of apps that mimic the envelope system, but if you're someone for which breaking a 20 feels really tangible, and you don't want to do it, then it might make sense to do it as a cash envelope system. You can also do this with debit cards. So if you are, you find yourself kind of struggling to stop spending when you hit the end of your budget, you can put your weekly allowance or your monthly allowance into a separate account, and that debit card is the only card you carry with you, the only card in your browser, and that is the only one that you can use for discretionary expenses. This also works with things like, say you spend a lot of money at Starbucks, and you have a lot of impulse control issues with Starbucks spending, but you're willing to spend some money on it. Like, you do want to spend some money on it. You get value out of it. It's a nice ritual for you, but you don't want to overspend. Well, one thing you can do is have a set amount that gets loaded to a Starbucks card each month. And then when that is gone, you are done until the next time that you fill it in. So there's a lot of different ways that you can implement the envelope method. You need to know where your problem areas are, though. Most of us know where the place that we have trouble overspending with. But if you have no idea what the thing is that kind of causes you to struggle with meeting financial goals, or you don't really know like why you're consistently overspending, then I recommend trying to track your budget for just 1 month and seeing what those areas are, because we all have different like emotional triggers around spending. And you might find that, oh, I stayed up too late and I felt bad about myself and I was stalking my ex on Facebook, and then all of a sudden I spent a bunch of money on cat snuggies or something like that. And you kind of find that you have emotional triggers that lead into this. Or I was leaving the therapist and I felt really, really emotional, and I passed by the burrito place and it smelled really good and I got a burrito, but man, I didn't need to spend $12 on a burrito. then, find what the emotional triggers are and then design systems to either avoid or contain or plan ahead for them. So that is one of the like kind of ways that you can use the envelope system to kind of combat that. Christine says, do you have reward suggestions for putting dollars into a SEP IRA? Maybe I should just put it into a CD. I wouldn't recommend putting it into a CD instead of a SEP IRA because the CDs are really very low interest rates compared to what you could be investing in a SEP IRA. I mean, it really depends on what your goals are, but SEP IRAs usually are more actively investing. Also, the SEP IRA is tax deductible for you if you're a business owner, but the CD is not tax deductible. So, I mean, there's a couple different reward suggestions. One, I actually like to manually transfer my SEP IRA each month because I enjoy getting to update my savings tracker each month. I think I have a link to my Google Sheet of my savings tracker. It's not that exciting. It's just a very colorful Google spreadsheet down in the show notes. But one thing that you can do is create a ritual around it. Like that's what I do on the last day of the month. I make sure that all my business accounting is shored up. Then I see how much I have and then I manually transfer it. It's very satisfying for me to do that. The other thing you could do is just put it on auto transfer. Like, why make work for yourself every time in order to reward yourself for transferring money into a SEP? Just set it up to be on a regular basis. Even if that regular basis is once a year, at the very end of the year, you transfer $2,000 or whatever it is into your SEP IRA. That's my recommendation. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily put it into a CD just because they're getting such low interest rates right now. The actual, if you don't have a SEP IRA yet and you're annoyed about setting one up, what I will say is that I was putting it off because I thought I was going to have to call to set it up because you do for solo 401ks. But I found that I could just do it online with Vanguard and it took almost no time at all. And then I didn't run out of my motivation for doing it. So yeah, I have procrastination when tasks seem unpleasant or have more than one step is such a big part of ADHD for me, especially. And one thing I have is I have this IRA that is I don't love the investments that it's in. I'm not making great returns, but I don't have a lot of options. But it was my first IRA. And I had very limited options when I only had $50 a month to put in it. Initially, I just did it with my bank because I could get approved to set it up. And I've wanted to transfer it, but I've legally changed my name since I opened the account. So even though it's still actively invested, I'm not I haven't been contributing it to it for years because I have better accounts. I wanted to transfer it to my main one because I like to have all of my investment accounts just in one place, one screen. Another big recommendation I have, simplify what you have. But because I had a different legal name when I opened that account, I have to go and get a form filled out at a physical bank called a one and the same medallion signature one, which is not even a normal notary. It's way above that, certifying that I am the same person and showing my legal name change document. And of course, that has meant it's been years. But what I will say is I promised myself after I made that appointment, which I am going to have on Tuesday, I was allowed to buy a bunch of planner stickers. So Iris Bear says eating out is my kryptonite. So, I mean, pre-COVID, I always recommended cash envelope system for people that struggle with the eating out because you know how much you have in your wallet, right? There's no tracking necessary. If that money is in the wallet for the week, then you're done once it's empty, right? Now a lot of places are not taking cash because of COVID. And that's when I really do think that having one of those debit cards that has a separate account for discretionary spending can really, really work. Or, you can do a prepaid card that you just reload. Alana says, I'm definitely an emotional spender. So here's the thing that I say. I have taught thousands of personal finance workshops at this point, I would say. Maybe 1,000. Let's say 1,000. And I tell people everyone is an emotional spender. Everybody is an emotional spender at some point. We are not robots. We are humans. We have emotions, whether or not we want to deny it. And at some point, those emotions usually show up in our spending. Sometimes because we're, stuck we're very scared of, like a lot of our emotions around finances are fear of not having enough. Sometimes we can be emotional savers, where we will, avoid spending money, um, because we are afraid that if we spend money even on things that we need, it is going to deprive us of other things. This can also come from like, for a lot of ADHD people, distrust, where you're like, oh, before I've screwed up with money, I've had problems with money, and I don't really trust that I know that I won't need this money, so I don't want to spend it. And then we get in this like deprivation cycle. Christine says, I do auto transfer, so I ain't get no satisfaction. Yeah, I don't know. I like to manually transfer. It's really maybe a little over the top. I also do mine based on a percentage of how much I take home, and I take home a different amount every month from my business, so that's part of it. Stephanie says, my business tracking spreadsheet has estimated taxes in it. I get a little boost seeing the tax bill go down when I enter my solo 401k contribution. Ooh, that's a nice reward right there. Same. My spreadsheet also has my estimated taxes, and it goes down. That spreadsheet is linked below. So if you do need that Google sheet that I use that has that in there is good. Abel Jack says, that Medallion Bank thing is such a terrible thing. I was really surprised that I'm getting it for free because I heard it can cost like $75, which just seems like a really bizarre amount of money to spend to have someone look at my form to confirm that I have legally changed my name. It just seems very dumb. The Journaling Broom says, I'm definitely an emotional saver. I'm someone who likes to deprive themselves by not spending money. I've gotten a lot better about it. But I always feel like I'm on the edge of financial insecurity, no matter how much the numbers don't agree with me. Like I have so much fear from years of living extremely close to the edge that I will put off buying things. Like I have a lot of trouble buying things in bulk, even when they're like things I know I'm going to need and I can definitely afford, and I would actually save money. So like toothpaste is a great example. Like I have a lot of trouble buying toothpaste in bulk, even though I know I'm going to go through it, because even when it's on sale, because I'm like, it's still better to spend less money right now than spend less money overall. It's this very dumb like brain thing that I have going on. I know it about myself, so I try to work on it, but I'm still not amazing at it. Okay. So, 2 was the advice was make sure you don't have to track everything. Unless you're someone like me that kind of tends towards the more OCD anxious side and tracking brings you a lot of calm, then I recommend setting up a system that is very like things don't have to be tracked. You just have hard stops. So cash envelope system, debit cards, something like that. All right. 3, setting up routines. I know this sounds like the antithesis of ADHD friendly advice, but here's the thing. ADHD brains actually love routines, but they resist it. So make sure you set up a routine that's actually sustainable. I think one of the things that a lot of ADHD people struggle with, myself included, is that we get extremely ambitious very quickly. We'll get like very excited. We're like, I'm going to get my finances together. I'm going to do everything in an afternoon and everything's going to be done. And I'm going to win the finance trophy and I'm going to put it on a shelf. And you convince yourself that you're going to do extremely elaborate things, like you're going to get into credit card hacking, and then you're also going to start a side hustle and maybe another side hustle, and you're going to sell your stuff on eBay and blah, 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 blah. And nothing actually ends up getting done because you've convinced yourself that you're going to have all these sort of routines, that you're going to become the kind of person that wakes up at 4 a.m. every day and, like sells things before work or whatever it might be. So setting up a routine that is actually sustainable. So don't get ambitious with it. Something simple is something more likely you're going to do. So it could be reviewing your expenses every week. What I recommend with ADHD, because procrastinating on a task and then it becoming overwhelming because it's too large is a really big issue for a lot of people, especially people with ADHD brains. And I recommend making really small routines more often, because the more often you do it, the more it reinforces it as a routine and it makes it a lot easier for you. So a routine could be something as simple as every time you walk in the door, emptying your pockets of receipts and sticking it in a manila envelope next to the door for receipts. Or every time you're getting a receipt, scan it on the scanning app and immediately save it on your phone, and then you can throw out the receipt. Or every single week, you get to watch Real Housewives while you open your bank account and make sure it's still there. Like, I don't know how many people are familiar with the budgeting method of, if I don't log into the account, I don't know what's happening, and it's probably fine. Because I have met a lot of people from the, I just won't log in and then I won't know, but it'll probably be fine. So even just the creating the ritual of checking everything, I think one thing that I experience is, because I tend to lose stuff, I tend to lose track of things so much, I have a lot of routines where I'll end up doing them like 3 times over in a row. Like, I have like timers I start every night before I go to sleep. I've done it for like almost 9 years now. And I still every night can't remember if I've done it just a second before, because short-term memory is a really big problem with ADHD. And I have created enough routines where, even though I may have to check it a bunch of times, because it's become such a routine, it does mean it does get done, even if, I may have to check and recheck and, made sure that I've done it. And then I always recommend associate doing a boring or unpleasant financial task with something novel. So, like, you scan receipts while listening to a new podcast, you fill in a dumb form or a timesheet each week, but you get to go buy yourself a treat on the way home. Think about ways to reward yourself at the same time that you're doing the task. So rather than, oh, if I do this in the future, I'll be able to go on a vacation, which doesn't work as well for ADHD brains because we want the reward now. That is more appealing. Set it up where you get the reward at the time that you're doing it, right? So I find that to be really, really important. So think about micro routines. If you put off financial stuff to be infrequent, it'll become too big and it'll become too scary, and then it'll become extremely painful, right? So micro routines, scanning receipts every day, maybe every day, opening up your bank account, just looking at it, just making sure it's there, right? That kind of thing I think will really help. Joanna says, I set up my planner and budget while I watch the live stream each week, but this falls down when the kids stop me watching the live stream. Oh, children. Those are the problems there. Thank you. That's great. I have like a little planner routine that I do every Sunday night too. And that also really helps, because I also kind of struggle with those sort of things. But because I have it as a routine every Sunday night, it really works. Joanna says, I do relate to piling too many projects on myself. Yeah, I mean, you're talking to someone who's having to color code it, and I didn't have enough colors to code all the projects I have going on right now. Oh, Christine says, overconfidence is definitely an ADHD trait. Yeah, totally. And the overconfidence combined with the, like, you have the tools to do it, but you don't have the tools to do it all at once, right? And I think that is one of the really challenging parts about it. Alana says, just say my name. I know you're talking about me. I'm talking about a lot of you. Okay, so in addition to the routines, I recommend make it so that you don't have to set up a ton of routines. Set everything you possibly can to e-bills and statements and auto payment. Like, just make the robots do the work for you. We no longer are in a world where balancing your checkbook is a thing that you have to do. You don't have to track everything if you just use online banking and cards for everything. So switch to e-bills and statements for as many things as possible. Pieces of paper are the enemy of like ADHD people, like stacks of paperwork. If you're used to stuffing things and piles and drawers, I know we all have the piles and drawers problem, and those things feel really overwhelming, then I recommend that you set up the piles to be at least searchable later. So make a single binder that doesn't need to be organized, but that you just stuff all financial receipts in. So rather than have like a pile of receipts in your jacket pocket, a pile of receipts by the door, a pile of receipts in your bathroom next to like where you unpacked the groceries, a pile of receipts in a different bag, then what you do, here's an idea. If you need to have receipts, stick a manila envelope by your door or in your kitchen, wherever you like unload your pockets. Every single time you come home, remove the receipt, whatever the most recent receipt is, stick it in the manila envelope. Put that manila envelope on the wall, somewhere that's like visual. Remember, novelty, cover it in stickers if you need to, make it fun. Take that manila envelope every month, just write in a Sharpie the month on it. Stick it into another pile. That's it. Like, that's it. That's all you need to do. We're not asking you to make it kind of comprehensive. We are asking you to make it at least searchable later, because there is nothing more miserable than the, oh my God, I need that receipt because I need to return something, or I need that receipt because I need it for tax purposes. The other thing too is make it so that there's less things that you need. If you don't own a business or you aren't someone that is able to charitable donations tax deduct, you probably don't need 99% of receipts. So just immediately recycle them instead of letting them become the piles of paper, the clutter that hurts your brain and that you start to just edit out of your environment. Just recycle them immediately. Huge fan of doing that. I also recommend setting up receipts for your email. So make them automatically get shunted to separate folders. So you can set up rules really simply, having a good brain day, having one of those ambitious afternoons where you're going to get everything organized. Just do one thing, set up a rule so that receipts go into a folder. And that is just so that later you can access them if you need them. I try to have almost no physical paper receipts, but I do need to save receipts for my business because I have a lot of business expenses. The only receipts that I get are paper are pretty much exclusively from the donut shop where I get the donuts. Here are the two ways in which I've reduced the amount of receipts that I need. One, I actually buy a gift card every like 2 or 3 months for the donut shop. And that means I only need one receipt. So I get a receipt at the time, and then we use that gift certificate every week when I go and buy a donut, and they deduct off of it. That also means that I can budget for donuts for 3 months out, and then that's it. That's my donut budget. Not that it's something that I tend to like overspend on, but it's very concrete. Then all I have to do is scan that one thing. Where does the gift card live? Right next to the door, because I live like a 1 minute walk from the donut shop. So what do I have next to the door? I have my loyalty rewards card tucked into the gift certificate because it's like a long gift certificate. And then I also have my wallet filled with $1 so that I can tip in the $1 bill every time for the donuts. And this means I only get like 4 receipts a year rather than getting 52 receipts a year that I need to keep track of for my finances. That's it. So it is super, super simple. Ursula says, stick them in the trash. They aren't actually recyclable. Or stick them in the trash. It depends on the receipt paper, but yes. Aaron says, I have a scanner that auto-saves to my Dropbox, so I just scan all the paper that comes in and I sort it out later from the digital files. Yeah, so because I have so few receipts, the way that I scan my physical receipts, which is very handy, or my charitable donation things, is that I use a ScanSnap app. So there are lots of apps. There's Genius Scan, ScanSnap. Most of them are free, and what they will do is let you take a picture with your phone, and then you can save it. So I actually save it automatically to my iCloud because I have an iPhone files, and it's just receipts 2021, receipts 2020, and it saves them there. They don't need any more information than that. Most of the time, you don't need to produce those receipts, especially if you've got some sort of auto tracking going on for your business. So the journaling broom says, yeah, I need to organize my email. Having a section for receipts is nice. Yeah, the thing for me is like 99% of the time, I don't need to look at those receipts again, but I need to know that I have them for tax purposes because I run a business. Christine says, I have a super sparkly red envelope for all my tax stuff. Novelty. Very appealing. Dean says, me, I can do all the things. Easy. Also me. No spoons. Not done. Oh, I relate so much. Me, all the time. Christine, thank you for the gift card to Donut Shop, saying that it's brilliant. Because what I will say is that when we finally figured it out, the other reason I did it is because I would put them on my credit card because I prefer not to use cash for my business because it's harder to keep track of, and I do actually have to keep track of those expenses more. But they credit cards, they would charge you if you spent less than $5. But since I only get one donut a week, I do spend less than $5. And so we did the card because I won't get charged for using the credit card. I can put it on the credit card. But it does mean they have to do math because they're just like physical cards where you write it down. Luckily, the employees like me. I bring them cat stickers. And I'm very nice, but it does mean at like 7 a.m. every Sunday they have to do math. Christine says, can you also tax deduct tip to Donut Shop? Yeah, I can. Because it's only $1 a week, essentially I tip $1 a week, which means that I tip like 30%. I don't worry about it. I just have ones that I go through. So I figure the $52 a year is just part of my petty cash. So I have like a petty cash envelope for the business. I used to sell at fairs and stuff, so I had a lot of dollars. Okay, so preventing clutter is a big part of it. I don't even actually leave the store without scanning my receipts. I like to like not even take them home. I just like to scan them. Okay, next tip, playing defense. Don't actually do stuff that requires an extra step unless you make a concrete plan with real consequences for it. So this is one of the areas where I see a lot of people with ADHD struggle. They like know that they could save money if they did this thing, but because it has multiple steps, it's really hard to do. So examples are signing up for credit card bonuses that require you to track how much you spend and spend a certain amount by a certain date. That can be really challenging for a lot of people with ADHD. That bonus is probably not worth it. Don't do it if you're going to struggle with it. If you don't have a concrete plan for how you're going to do it, don't do it. Don't get contacts or glasses that then require you to like physically mail in the rebate. Like find a thing that you can do an automatic rebate on and you don't have to do that. Don't buy something that you like, don't like do the like, hey, I'm going to shop for these like 10 things, and then return the 9 that don't fit if you know that you're not going to return it. So like, if you know that you won't go to the post office, you won't go to the Amazon Dropbox, you're not going to make it back into the store. If you know that you're not going to do that and it's going to have financial consequences for you, either don't do it or make an extremely concrete plan for it. Like before you order that stuff, guess what you're going to do? You are going to make a date to go with a friend to the post office. You are going to create a plan before you actually do the thing because it is extremely hard to do stuff that has multiple steps for people with ADHD. Okay, so another thing the ADHD brain really likes and needs is that novelty and that immediacy. So really, because of the like executive dysfunction, it can be really challenging to figure out like how you are. You can kind of like ignore things that aren't in your immediate view, right? This even happens to me with my own environment. Like if I put a sticky note on this monitor to remind me, if that sticky note is there for more than 2 days, the sticky note ceases to exist from the universe, right? Like the pile of laundry that I put next to the bed so that I can clean it or so that I can fold it and put it away, it ceases to exist if I don't deal with it immediately. So create things that are urgent, a way for them to be immediate, because a lot of what people struggle with ADHD is having tasks that are like, you're like, neglect essentially is what screws up their finances. So make things actually have alerts. Avoid the I don't log in and then everything is fine sort of mentality that happens with a lot of people. For example, I get text messages every single time I spend over $10 on my card, and I get alerts every single time anything is deposited into my checking account. And I actually get like text messages. Those are immediate, aware. You can set up alerts from different apps. I have actually been really enjoying Chime Bank because it is their app. I do actually recommend for a lot of people with budgeting. We talked about it on the Oh My Dollar podcast or the Oh My Dollar live stream last week in the budgeting apps. And one of the reasons I like it, one, it has emojis. Two, it just notifies me every so often on my phone with cute emojis what my balance is. If anytime I have any transaction or spend it, I find that extremely helpful. So another method too is something like with credit cards. So I really, really, really recommend credit monitoring services. There are tons that are free. You do not have to pay anybody for any of these. Chase and Discover both provide credit monitoring services for free. These are obviously for US-based credit services, but there are a couple different ones in the UK for their credit system. I am not sure about Canada. But there are tons of free ones. The one I've used for years is Credit Karma. The reason I like it, you know why I like it? Because I get cute notifications. I don't know if I can screen share this, but like I'm able to see cute graphs. My standard for what is a cute graph, I find most graphs cute, but I just really enjoy the ping that I get from these. And the other great thing about Credit Karma for me, which is the same as, the Chase and the Amex or whatever, is that every single time, so like my credit report is pulled or if a payment is missed or something like that, you can sign up to get notified. So this is a good way of kind of ignoring your credit, but then having it monitored because credit is one of those areas where a lot of people will kind of put it off or not worry about it. And then it'll be a problem because they forgot to set up an auto pay for a card or something like that. And I really enjoy the visual stimuli of getting, my different credit monitoring things. So those are the recommendations that I have for the how to make things immediate. Iris Bear says, I used Experian annual fee when I was improving my credit to buy a house, which I did this summer. Excellent. Yes, if you have a Chase card, you can get the Chase one for free. Discover is free for anyone, even if you don't have a card with them. A lot of these are kind of around. I use Credit Karma just because it's free and I can use it to keep an eye on. And for me, it is also very helpful because I forget what I actually, even though I recommend simplifying the amount of cards, I actually do the credit card hacking hobby, which I've referenced quite a lot. I also have the OCD, so I do like tracking things a lot, like more than probably anybody should. But that the credit card hacking, travel hacking thing means I have to keep track of a lot of deadlines, and I have a ton of cards. Like, not to show off my card numbers, but these are all of my cards, and they're like organized into my personal credit cards and copay cards and everything. And I don't carry any balances on any of my cards. They're all set on auto pay to completely pay off every month. But because I have a lot of cards, I need to know my average age of credit and everything and the dates. And so I find those very, very helpful. Congrats on buying a house, by the way, Iris Bear. Sorry, I didn't acknowledge that, but congrats. It's very exciting. And yes, credit monitoring can pay off a ton when you are doing something big like buying a house, where just a few points, jumps and points in your credit score can mean saving, a ton on your interest rate. Because if you get your credit into that best range, then you are able to have a lower interest rate, and that can save you a ton of money over the life, tens of thousands of dollars over the life of your mortgage. Okay, that kind of dives into the fourth one, which is turn on auto pay on any cards. That's it. turn on auto pay for at least the minimum on your cards. If you are struggling to handle the fact that you have too many cards, you don't know if you have enough money to pay the minimums on your cards, then what I recommend is, even though it might not be the best thing for your credit, is see if you can consolidate, go on one of those $0 cards, consolidate them onto one of the 0% APR or the very low ones, set up a minimum that is sustainable for you, and then just make sure you have the auto pay, because missing your minimum payments is going to screw up your credit. And that is one of the areas where I see people miss a lot. And a lot of the time it isn't because they don't have the money. It's because they like forget they have the card. They can't keep track of the dates. And I just don't want that. So set up the auto pay for the minimums. And if you are struggling with trying to figure out how to actually pay the minimums on your cards, I have quite a lot of episodes on how to figure out, like how to negotiate with your creditors. I talk about it in my book, so we're not going to dive too deep into that, but set up auto pay. I actually have mine to auto pay my 100%, not my minimum, but it pays 100% of my statement balance every single month for all of my cards. And because of the way I budget, I don't even care what dates they are. The other thing to know, this is a thing that, like, if you are struggling because you have different due dates on all of your cards and you can't keep track, guess what? Most credit card companies will move your due date. All you have to do is call them and ask. That's also true with other installment payments that you have. So, like, I totally recommend calling. If you're like, I really have I have trouble like remembering what my dates are because they're all random, you can call and make them all go on the same date if you can make that happen. You could also call and make them, structure them for different dates if you need that for cash flow reasons. But you could make it so that they're all on the first, so you never have to forget, because there's a first in every month, and as long as you remember the first, that's all you have to remember. That's one of those ritual things, right? Like, if you can create something where it is easy for you to remember the trigger, then that works. Dean says, I need to work on out that stuff. Credit scores passed me by and then bit me in the bum. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know quite as much about the UK credit system, but it has most of the same basics as the US system. It's just that it's like a slightly different system. Christine says, auto pay essential. Yes. Iris Bear says, late fees plus the credit score hit is the worst. I'd rather my checking account went negative than miss a credit card minimum. Agreed. And I also think this is true with student loans. I think a lot of people will put off the student loans thing because they don't want to call and deal with it. But here's the thing. If you call and deal with it, you can likely get it set up with IBS or forbearance, and you can make it so that your payments are extremely low or $0, depending on your income, what's going on. But those will still count as payments. And so setting up that auto payment. Also, when it comes to student loans, almost all your student loans, if you set them up on auto payment, will save you money on your interest rate, which could save you thousands and thousands of dollars over the interest of the loan. Like, it's often like 0.5% lower interest rate if you set up auto pay. Iris Bear says, student loans, I've made that mistake before. Yeah, it's a really common mistake that, like, oh, I don't have the money to deal with the student loan, so I won't call and deal with it. But here's the thing, if you call and deal with it, you can likely, especially if you are low income, if you suffered a job loss, any of those things, if you negotiate at that time, then those payments are going to count towards your payments. And it also, there are ways to rehabilitate your student loan. I've done tons of episodes on it. So even if you are in, you have had problems with your student loans, you can rehabilitate your student loans, and that just involves making the payments on time every time. And if you set them up for auto payment, it takes less time. They are so willing to work with you because their whole system is ridiculous, and they, at some point, you're going to have to pay them because the system is so bad in the US, but they are willing to work with you. Okay, speaking of overdrafts, one of my recommendations, in addition to turning on auto pays for any cards, 2, turn on overdraft protection if you can afford it. So as long as you have like a savings account or emergency fund that you can link as your overdraft protection account, I recommend doing that because I want you to not have your bank account go negative. But that being said, if you cannot afford it, call, turn overdraft off, because a lot of banks will overdraft you and then charge you and put you into debt on it versus just make it so that your debit card declines. So if you can't afford it, if you don't have the extra buffer in a savings or emergency fund, a second account, then what I want you to do is actually call your bank and be like, I do not want you to overdraft my account. What I want you to do is I want you to reject my debit card if I can't afford it. And you have to call and talk to them. So, that is my recommendations with the overdraft protection, and make sure that you have a $0 overdraft account. If you are someone that has been known to kind of ride the bottom of that checking account, we've all been there, so no judgment. And then the very last thing I want you to do is, I recommend this to everyone. I don't care where you are with your finances, how you are with your credit cards. Set your cash advance limit on your credit card to $0. This means if you accidentally buy something that rates as a cash advance, like if you try to wire someone money, it counts as a cash advance on your card. You would rather it be rejected. You don't want to end up with those crazy cash advance fees. So set your cash advance to 0. You can just call up your bank. I know, just calling up your bank sounds terrible. You might be able to secure message chat them on your bank for your credit card, but it is such a big deal. All right. Should we eat this donut? And then we're going to talk about impulse spending. I have like 3 more tips, but I've been talking for a long time. Iris Bear says cash advance equals bad. Cash advances really, they never help. Really, there's so many other better ways to get cash in almost all circumstances, just because the fees are so high. Iris Bear says, I usually go into my bank. They know me pretty well. Interestingly enough, I haven't had a physical bank for most of my life. So my goal is to never have to go into a bank. Although I do now, because I got a sign-up bonus, I have an account in my neighborhood, in one of the many banks in my neighborhood. And I am actually getting that dumb medallion signature thing for free. But it's just because I keep like $300 in this local one, so that if I do need to withdraw cash or deposit cash, I can, because my other bank is USAA, which has no physical locations anywhere except Texas. Rural says, oh yeah, deal with the student loans. Can generally do that all online without calling too. Yes, although sometimes calling will get you better service or things you don't know about. But, because I will say that I think a lot of people are really scared to call their student loan servicers. But I will say that the people that you call and talk to with student loans, it depends on who it is. Navient is the worst. But a lot of those people are there to help you. They're just like nice people that are working a really miserable call center job, but they do know usually quite a lot about the options available, and usually they are willing to help you. So don't kind of think of them as the evil people profiting off of your money. They are like poorly paid customer service employees that are doing a miserable job, but their day is going to be made if they can help you figure out a way to make it sustainable. So just like remember that when you're dealing with them. Christine says, breaks my heart about student loans. Shouldn't be an issue. How I wish. I wish that we had, automatic systems set up for student loans, but we don't. Iris Bear says, I had to get quarters for laundry every week, but now I have my own laundry. Well, yeah, and are you all going to be able to get quarters anymore anyway? Because all my banks are like, we will not give you coins. I have a roll of quarters, and I actually paid for... I traded it at the donut shop really close to me, my donut shop where I get the donuts. I finally traded it because I had rolls of quarters. Since I used to work at Starbucks, you would get paid. Sometimes your tips would come in rolls. Because, they roll the coins, and then when they split the tip jar, they would essentially, sometimes you get a roll of coins. And the rolls of coins I found mostly annoying because I don't have quarter laundry in my building anymore. We have it in unit, which is such a lifestyle upgrade. But I had held on to all of the coins for vending for when I used to do, fairs and stuff for Oh My Dollar Books. But given that since COVID, none of that is happening anymore, I finally was like, would you all like some quarters? And they were all like, yes, we would love some quarters because there's a huge coin shortage. Christine says, poorly paid workers, be kind. If you're kind to them, they are going to be more kind to you. I will say that. Elle from the forums used to be a student loan service call center person in Canada. So, might be the person to let you know and help you. Iris Bear says, I used to call center bill collect. I was way in debt myself at the time. It's a tough job. Yeah. And I will say student loan service people, I think it's a little less miserable than bill collecting because at least you're like often helping them strategize. But like, if you are nice to them, they really will try to help. Yeah. Dean says, I've had bank folks genuinely be cheerful to feel like they've helped with something. I find that a little bit of self-deprecating humor and asking them how they are can really, really help. The Journaling Broom says, Biden really needs to cancel student loan debt like he promised to. Yes, agreed. At least we got finally the automatic cancellation for people that qualified for disabled borrowers, which that program has existed, but now they're automatically doing it as opposed to making people fill in forms. But I totally agree. I'm a little frustrated by what's been happening with that, but that's for a different live stream. All right, I'm going to eat this like sad donut, and then we're going to come back and talk about impulse spending and picking goals. Okay, this is the pumpkin pie donut. It is not meant to have the cream be melting, but, we're going to deal with it. Definitely going to need a napkin for this one. It's black. It's like Halloween spooky. Oh my god. It really does taste like pumpkin pie, even though it doesn't look like it should. It's very hard to eat. It's very big. It's just a regular raised donut on the inside. So it's got this like pumpkin pie crust on the top. It does look very ghosty. Look how ghosty it looks. Too much dust. Are they pumpkin earrings? They are pumpkin earrings. I figured I would try to keep with the Budgetober spirit. The cream doesn't look as melted if I like get it on my hand. Okay, it tastes so much like pumpkin pie, but I'm having a little bit of like cognitive dissonance because looking at it, it doesn't feel like it should taste like pumpkin pie. Pineapple says, do you get free donuts or can we buy you a dough gift card? Hi, it's Kel. I do not get free donuts, but I tax write them off, which is part of the reason that I do this talking dough and eating donuts, is because when a vegan donut shop moved into my neighborhood, I was like, I have to come up with a system to reduce impulse spending related to today's topic. And my system was that I only have them for live streams. And if I only have them for live streams, that means I only have them once a week, which is like both reasonable for my budget and reasonable for my sugar intake. One donut a week. It's a nice splurge, but not like out of control amount of sugar because it is very close to my house. And additionally, that if I eat them on the live stream, I get to tax deduct them. So, and I get to support a business that I want to stay in my neighborhood because the donut shop actually went into what was previously a butcher. So from my perspective, I want this donut shop to be in my neighborhood forever. So Iris Bear says, oh, are you vegan or just supportive? I am vegan. I eat honey though. I've always eaten honey, but yeah, I've been vegan for like over 20 years. So, but I also live in Portland. So, I I live in Portland, so there's like multiple vegan donut shops. So you can figure out which one is the one in my neighborhood if you did a little bit of trying to hunt on the internet. But there are lots of vegan donut shops in Portland because I live in Portland. But one of them, Portland Donut Tea, but it's related to labor. So it's talking dough and eating donuts related. Voodoo Donuts, which is kind of like, it was a cult brand. They're meant to be very like punk rock donuts. They make a lot of weird donuts, like with cereal on them and top. I mean, even weirder than the dough donuts, which is the ones that I eat here. So Voodoo Donuts, it's long been known. I've lived with people who have worked there. I've known like quite a few people that have worked there that they like kind of were never had great like labor, that it was kind of maybe a very disorganized place to work or whatever. But it is the main tourist donuts in Portland, although they have actually expanded to other cities now. You can get them in the airport and stuff, but it used to be that they come in these bright pink boxes, and like you could spot the tourists going to the airport on the max because they had like the bright pink boxes from Voodoo Donuts, and they would have lines down the block and everything at all hours of the night. They were also cash only until like a year and a half ago. Like they really were one of the last holdouts as cash only. Anyway, Voodoo Donuts. So if you don't remember, a couple months ago, Portland had an 115-degree day, which is, I believe, how much is that in Celsius, Aaron? Can you look it up for me? It's like over 40 degrees Celsius. It's quite a lot. And we had 115-degree heat wave. It was miserable. 46 Celsius. Yeah. So like it was 115 degrees Fahrenheit, 46 Celsius. It was miserable. A lot of people in Portland don't have AC, but the problem was that even the AC was not effective at reducing it down. And like everybody was just melting. Things were shut down. Like it was terrible. It was actually terrible. It was really, really miserable. And Voodoo Donuts employees were being forced to work to fry donuts, even though like most shops were closed. This donut shop was closed because they like couldn't keep track of it. So Voodoo Donuts employees were like, we can't work in this. They had already like shifted hours to like try to work in even earlier morning hours when it was cooler. But the problem was it wasn't cooling off overnight. It was still like the lowest it was getting down to was like 105. And even just customers being in the store, in a tiny donut store for a couple minutes, were having to leave because they were like so faint. And all of the like stuff was just melting off the donuts. Anyway, they were being forced to work. And a bunch of them walked out due to unsafe conditions. They were like, it's not physically safe to work in these conditions, which is like no surprise because almost everybody had like shut down. We had these cooling centers, but even the cooling centers were still in the 95 degrees Fahrenheit inside. And the National Labor Relations Board, so anyway, they had like 6 or 7 employees walked off the job when they were told that they were going to have to work in those conditions, and came back when it was down into the reasonable hundreds, which is like 35 Celsius. When it was in the reasonable like 38 Celsius, like a couple days later, came back to work and were told that they had been fired for work abandonment. And they filed with the National Labor Relations Board, saying that they had been illegally retaliated against for striking due to unsafe working conditions, and they won their case. So that was back in July. So they won their case, and Voodoo Donuts has to pay all of their back pay, and offer them their jobs back. So yeah. 46 sounds cool to Americans, at least to me, but apparently it is hot. Yeah. Well, 46 Celsius is extremely hot, once it's over 30 Celsius, it's like hot. It's definitely in the hot territory. But yeah, 115 is like not an amount that Portland is set up to handle. Like there's only like Arizona is set up to handle 115. So, yeah, and frying donuts inside. So like that was the temperature outside. But like I thought I was going to go into the office during that crazy hot day. I like went into the office even though it was abandoned for the first time in forever because I was like getting so lightheaded just trying to work at my computer in my house because our like we have like a tiny window AC that in no way was doing any job. And I biked into the office, like, tried to go really when it was still dark outside, got in. The AC in the office building was just, like, not working. And I had to bike home during the hottest part of the day. So I had to bike home during that 115-degree weather. And that 5-mile bike ride was, like, the hardest miles of my life. And I have done 200-mile days on my bike. And I was, like, miserable. And I, at one point, had to go into a glass elevator, like, on a bridge over. It was complicated. I was in that glass elevator for one story with my bike, and I was like, if this elevator doesn't open, I'm gonna be dead within like half an hour. Like it was like that hot inside. And when the doors of the elevator opened to 115-degree weather outside, it felt like a brush of cool air on my face. So I can't even imagine what a frying kitchen donut was like on that day. Dean says, genuinely terrifying they expect people to do that. Well, here's the thing. In addition, the National Labor Relations Board, so they actually tried to unionize at Voodoo Donuts like earlier this year, and the workers voted against it. However, the National Labor Relations Board found that Voodoo unfairly interfered with that union vote, and because of that, they are supposed to be able to have another vote without interference. So anyway, it's not a surprise. If you know the Voodoo owners, you're not really surprised. The journaling broom says, yeah, I believe that. That's the type of temperatures people can die from. So in Portland, over 60 people died on that hot day. Like mostly in their homes. People that didn't have AC in their homes. We had cooling centers, but even the cooling centers, I mean, like trying to get people to the cooling centers was a problem. Also, our max shut down, so like people weren't able to just like ride the max because it shuts down when it gets over like 100 degrees. Like the tracks get too hot. So, and we're like so not prepared for this temperature here. So, yeah, unfortunately, we had an extremely high death toll during that heat wave. So the idea that they wanted workers to fry donuts, like y'all, close down your business. File a freaking insurance claim for acts of God if you need to. I don't know. Like, you do not need to sell donuts that much. 116 is like 36 degrees-ish over what a yearly average high might be for the Pacific Northwest. Yeah, totally. Ursula says, my college is currently unionizing and I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you. I hope it brings you a great deal of labor rights and great collective bargaining power. That is what I want for you. All right, should we do the last little bit here with impulse buying and then flu for the week? Donut rating. I think if the cream had remained on top, which is just my fault, it's no fault of the donut makers. It was much cuter when I got it. I would put it, I'd say it's a 4 out of 5. It's a 4 out of 5. It's not the best donut ever, but it's pretty good. I enjoy the novelty effect. I think we got some good Budgetober, October, Halloween vibes going on here. All right, so I have done multiple episodes about impulse buying. So if this is something that you really struggle with, I recommend like reading my book just to shill for that. But listen to the episodes. Episodes are free. There's transcripts if you're someone who doesn't like to listen to stuff. There's transcripts on the website. So I've done a lot of things on impulse buying, but impulse buying can be a huge issue for people with ADHD. In a bunch of the peer-reviewed studies that I looked at, this was one of the areas in which ADHD people do tend to score much higher in impulsivity. And impulse buying is something that a lot of ADHD people and everybody struggles with. Here are my recommendations for dealing with impulse buying, emotional spending, any of those things. 1, Was my beautiful impulse spending monologue completely cut off, y'all? Tell me if I'm live, y'all. Am I definitely live? I'm waiting for the chat to say something, so please, people in the chat, say if I'm live. I don't know if I believe it. Am I actually live? Okay, cool. Oh, I think that chat. Okay, cool. That is literally what we had to do. We had to turn it off and back on. Okay, you can hear. Oh no, I have it. There. There we go. I had it on my phone so that I could let you all know that we were trying to turn it off back on. Thank you. The chat was still working for me, so I had no idea. All right. Yes, it's like the impulse spending just came in. Okay, so I'm just gonna restate everything that I did, so that hopefully we can clean this up in post or something like that. Cool. So impulse spending. If you have a regrettable spending, go back and try to figure out what those things that are triggers for you in your life that have the impulse spending triggers for you. So if you are a journaler or someone who plans, go back and see some things that you regretted spending money on. So things that you maybe impulse bought or you just didn't feel like you got the value out of it. You're like, yeah, I spent money on candy, but I didn't feel extremely great about the candy afterwards. Like it didn't, it might not have been, it doesn't have to be a big expense. It just something that you feel like was regrettable. Go back and look and try to figure out what the triggers are. And it's very possible that you have like you're feeling emotional after you drop your kids off with your ex, and then you end up always going to Starbucks and getting multiple things that you don't actually like that much because you're trying to like drown your emotions in sugar. Maybe you find that, you were upset about politics or something, and then you overspent on a bunch of suits that you never wear because you convinced yourself you were going to run for Congress. And like any of those things that like you really struggle with, any of those like things that are emotional triggers for yourself, then what you need to do is look at the different ways that you can kind of overcome those individual regrettable spendings. So the first thing that you might do is see if there's something that you can replace it for with free or less money. So if you find that you are always going and getting a cup of coffee in the afternoon at the office when you're stressed out, or after the all staff meeting that's really stressful, perhaps what you actually just need is a break. Maybe you don't need to go, get a fancy cup of coffee or something like that. And you could try substituting with a walk. Or perhaps you know that you are always going to want to get fancy, sugary drinks after you drop your kids off with your ex. Maybe they're, instead of getting the most expensive drinks, you could swing by the grocery store and get yourself, extra fancy coffee that could last you all week. Any of those kind of things that you could like work your way through that might make it less or make it free. So something that kind of deals with the emotion that is causing you to do the impulse or regrettable spending, but it does it in a cheaper way. Another thing you could do is just try to avoid the situation. So, one problem you might have is like, hey, I always end up getting, I always end up walking into this store and then I end up spending way more than I wanted because I just couldn't resist anything and I get caught up in the impulsivity of it. Maybe don't walk past that store. Or when you do, you have to walk in with a concrete plan, or you have to walk in with a cash budget. So rather than like, oh, I'm going to spend on anything, it's like you've got a 20, you can buy all the pens that you want until you hit $20, and then that's it. That's the budget. One thing that I had happen today, where these pumpkin earrings actually came from, was that I wanted to go to the Lolita group, which is people that follow a certain kind of fashion that I'm mildly involved in. had a swap meet today. And I said, oh, I'm just going to go do a look around at the swap meet. There's nothing I really, really am looking for, but, this is like, the fact that I could get stuff locally and not have to have it shipped and buy it from the secondhand marketplace for people into this fashion. I figured it would be nice, and I could also see some of my Lolita friends. Of course, I ended up walking out with stuff because I was walking into a swap meet for stuff that I like, and I had the time limited kind of situation. So if I really hadn't been able to make the budget work for that, it would have been better to not go or not go with any cash or, any access to PayPal, whatever it might be. Another thing, if you really struggle with impulse buying, is to stop following things that make you want to buy things. So stop following accounts of brands, stop following influencers that have all of the cutest dresses that make you want to impulse buy, unsubscribe from marketing emails. I had to unsubscribe, and I stayed on this list for years, even though I really struggled with it because I wanted to stay on it because they have really good deals that only go out to their email list. But the problem was that every time I got a good sale notification from this brand, I would go onto their website and then I would get stuck in this vortex of shopping for cute vintage dresses and imagining the life that I would have if only I had this yellow 1950s suit. And when I unsubscribed, I stopped getting those triggers. And that really helped me with the impulse of for me, it's not even impulse spending because I don't tend to actually spend the money, but I impulse fill carts. And it just takes up a ton of brain space. Like I have this constant amount of brain space up there, like occupied by the things the carts that I have filled. The second thing I recommend is implementing waiting periods. So there are very few things that are as urgent as you think they are. And as someone who runs an online business, I have ways to make it look like the sale is only happening for the time that you're on that page. But guess what? If you reset the cookies in your browser and you visit again on a different day, you'll probably get that discount code. So I recommend like actually implementing waiting periods. So for me, I actually have a 24-hour waiting period for anything over $15. That's my own like my own like kind of struggle. But it works really well for me because usually it breaks down that impulse thing, as that I just know that I have to implement a waiting period. I love putting things on hold in stores and then walking out, like being like, hey, if it's still like, I'll put it on hold till the end of the day. I'll come back later. I love filling carts and then not buying them, because sometimes filling the carts can kind of solve the same sort of they can fill like the same sort of niche for me, and then I can kind of cut down on that impulsivity of spending with the abandoned carts. And I also recommend, this is something I've been doing now for 20 years, almost 20 years, like 15, 16 years, having a list of things you want. So if you are a bullet journal, you can make a really cute list for yourself. If you're a spreadsheeter, you can keep it in a spreadsheet. But every time you think about something that you'd like to buy, but is a discretionary item, a thing you want, put it down on the list with the date, how much it is, and how much you want it on a scale of 1 to 10. Maybe what emotion you feel or what sort of goal it's going to achieve for you, whatever those things might be for you. I have kept this list for years, and it is very helpful because it allows me to do two things. One, I fulfill the impulse by putting it on the list, and then I tell myself, hey, if I still want this in X number of months, whatever it might be, then I can get it. Two, the other thing it helps me with is by putting it on a list, it makes me more able to follow up the impulses when things are on sale. Because one thing that happens is if it's already been on the list for a long time and I know what the original price was, when it does go on sale, I can go, okay, this has been on the list long enough. This is actually a good deal. I can just buy it and make me feel better about buying it. Like none of that, like, oh, should I do it? Blah, blah, blah. Because it's really easy to convince yourself that something is a good deal. But it's not really a good deal if you're not getting value out of it. But if you know that you've wanted it for long enough, you know that the price is reasonable, then that makes it easier to actually do it. Iris Bear says, I learned during lockdown to put things in my cart and reevaluate the next day. That's the thing. It works quite well. Denise Noble says, I have definitely found when I'm in the mood for shopping, it's about the selection and idea rather than the actual purchase. So filling a cart or touching stuff still satisfies. Yeah, that's very much true for me. And that can kind of help. The tendency to buy on impulse or components of impulsive buying were really definitely stronger in people with symptoms of ADHD compared to average individuals. So actually like coming up with strategies ahead of time about how you handle impulsive spending, like if you're someone that goes to a comic convention and then walks out with a bunch of cute stuff because you felt that urgency, you were getting talking with people, and then all of a sudden you had tons of like little Harry Potter themed things, bring yourself only cash, a cash budget, tell yourself that if it's still there the last day, you'll get it, but otherwise it wasn't meant to be. I think any of those things can really help. All right, the last two things that I recommend as ADHD kind of budgeting strategies. The first one is trying to figure out how to pick and prioritize your goals. This can be one of the problems a lot of the time for people with ADHD because they want to do all the things right now. And so it's impossible to figure out how to focus on financial goals. And this is true for like a lot of people that come to my workshops, regardless of if they have ADHD or not. They're like, I feel like I should be maximizing my credit score, but I should also pay off my student loans, and I should save for retirement, but also I want to save for a vacation, and maybe I want to buy a house. And they don't feel like they have enough money to do all those things. The thing is that you probably do have enough money to do all those things, but one by one, not all at once. So I recommend one of these two strategies. Either one, follow an external system where there are clear steps. So a lot of ADHD people really like to follow like a set of systems, like humans like systems. And if you have someone else's external system, it can help you feel like, okay, this is the priority. So a lot of people like, I have my personal issues with Dave Ramsey, but a lot of people like the Dave Ramsey method because he has very clear financial steps, which is like paying off all debt, going to the next thing, saving a baby emergency fund and then a bigger emergency fund. I have a less frustrating, I have a less anti-debt system than Dave Ramsey. In my book, I have the cat tree of financial priorities, which I will pull up a card of it right here. But this is in my book, and it is the cat tree of financial priorities, and it is a list. This is just a card of it, but in the book, it explains all the systems, but essentially you start at the bottom of the cat tree and you work your way up. Following someone else's external system can be really good for people with ADHD because you don't have to second guess yourself. That being said, I'm a big advocate of not personal finance is personal. Everybody has different things. The other thing is that you can work on them simultaneously, but make it automatic. So if you decide you want to pay off your student loans and you also want to save for a vacation and then you also want to save for retirement, then set everything up to be automatic. You want to save for retirement? Okay. You have an auto 401k or SEP IRA that comes out of your account. The next thing, okay, you want to save for a vacation? You have an app like Digit or Chime or just an auto transfer to your savings account that transfers a little bit of money into your little down payment category or your vacation category. The next thing you want to do is that you want to pay off your student loans. You set those up on auto pay. If you need to do all the things and feel like you're making progress on all the things, that is okay, but make sure the robots are doing it for you. Because I think the fastest way to fail at financial goals with ADHD is trying to do all the things at once and nothing gets done because you feel like you have to do it the hardest way possible. Like, ADHD makes you really good at turning things that are not a problem into a problem, right? Like, oh, let me take this simple system and then I've made it extremely complicated for both in my brain or maybe actually have made it extremely complicated. Either I've made it feel complicated in my brain or I've actually made it complicated. And then you don't succeed at anything. And so set it up. And then my final piece of advice, which I think kind of does really wrap it up for everyone, is outsource if you can. You don't have to be good at everything. So if you can afford it, you know, you can hire a tax preparer for someone else. If you are in the US and you make less than around $60,000 a year, you can go get free tax help by certified volunteers through the AARP Tax Aid. They are great. I was a volunteer for years. It's the largest volunteer program in the country. You can get help online. You don't even have to go into a physical center. They have translators for a lot of different languages. They don't judge you if you've got to do past tax years. So that can really, really help. Otherwise, if you don't feel like you can get a tax volunteer to do it, but you have the money, hire a tax pro. Sometimes, even though you still might have to do some work, you might have to gather up some receipts, you might have to like find your 1099s under the pile of whatever stuff you have in your house. Having that external accountability of someone else can really, really help a lot of people. And, shop around. There are cool financial professionals out there. You want to find someone who is not like going to judge you, and ask another ADHD friend. Ask someone who you feel like maybe has a brain like yours but has their shit together. If you cannot afford to, outsource what you need, you likely have the trusted family member, whoever it is that is less scared, less stressed out by the stuff than you. One, you want to batch that reward thing so you get some friend hangout time and you get a financial task done. So, for a lot of people, shadowing can really help, where you actually just have mirroring, where you have someone doing a similar task to you in the same room. So you say, hey, we both have financial things to do. I don't need you to do it for me. I just need you to come over to the house and you work on stuff while I work on stuff, and you don't let me get distracted, and then we'll hang out afterwards. Or we'll hang out first, but then we have to do this thing. That doesn't work as well in my experience. But you may have a friend that's totally willing. Like, I've done this for so many people in my life where I've been like, hey, I do enjoy arguing with insurance companies and no one enjoys doing that. Or I know how to sit down and register for health insurance. Like, I've done it a lot. I am happy to I want to see you. I want to see you. I will come over to your house. This is fun for me. I know it's not fun for you, but it's fun for me. And I really enjoy getting to help you do this. It will take me less time and less anguish, and I get to hang out with you. And so you probably have a friend in that category. So if you've got a thing that you just cannot, like your brain can't handle, find the friend, the trusted family member, whoever it is in your life that is like, cool. Yeah, I can help with that. It's like really does work. Iris Bear says, I recently heard that having another presence with you helps ADHD people focus on the task because someone is watching you, even if it's your cat. I actually totally love having, I'm so much more productive when I do like a day in the life on Instagram, because I feel like people are watching me. Even if it's just like me filming that I did tasks or something, I always have a more productive day when I do them. But yeah, the cat does not watch me. She is asleep all the time in the office, so I don't feel like she's watching me, but yes. So if you are a business owner in the outsourcing vein, consider, if as soon as you can afford it, getting a CPA or bookkeeper. At the very least, they can help keep you accountable. Even if they're not someone who like works for you full time or like is a full review CPA, if you can get a bookkeeper, accountant, someone to help, even just someone that you pay to help you file quarterly taxes every quarter, if it's something you struggle with, like it likely won't cost that much. I also recommended a lot of free receipt scanning apps, but if you are someone who is drowning in physical receipts and you are a business owner and have a ton of them to deal with, there is this app called Shoeboxed. So it's Shoebox, but /D. that gives you envelopes each month. You do have to pay, I think the subscription fee is like $25 a month, so it's not super cheap. But you can just stuff all of your receipts in an envelope and mail it to them, and they auto scan and digitize and tag it all for you. So if you are someone who needs help with dealing with those receipts as a business owner, that is a pretty minor business expense compared to, hiring a bookkeeper or something like that. So yeah, I recommend outsourcing if it's, whether it is friend sourcing, whether it is mirroring, having a friend sit near you just working on their own stuff that they need to do, whether it is going to tax prep, any of those things, I really, really recommend. Christine says, we can all help each other. This is my huge aha moment, but Dora is assisting in her example of rest. Yes, well, I work 60 hours a week and the cat works, she moves sparkly balls around for about 5 minutes a day, so, but she's working on her rest. It's very important. I mean, she does also bathe for like 5 hours a day, so and I put off showers like to do it twice a week, so. Slightly related, whenever my cats are overwhelmed, they hold a cat and they feel better. It's definitely a thing. Oh my God, it works so well. The purring also is like, it's supposed to help, but yeah. Iris Bear says, it's perceived accountability. Maybe a dog is better, but another human is best. I also like, even if you have like a long distance friend that isn't going to be able to come over, but they're willing to help, you can sometimes get that accountability boost as someone with ADHD where you're like, hello, I do need to file my taxes by the end of the week. I don't want to do it. So what I want you to do is I want you to text me every day and ask me if I've done the thing. Dean says, incubating sparkly balls is work. Excuse. It's true. She also has to move them around every night. It's a whole thing. Yeah, purring is a scientifically proven good thing. Apparently, like, it is actually healing to humans. Okay. Anybody have any ADHD financial tips that you want to share ahead of the wonderful, wonderful floof of the week? Resting is work too. I don't know if it's work once you do it 20 hours a day. It's work. I agree. But once you're a cat. Maggie Indawood says, I've sat on Zoom before with a friend so I would get something done. Yeah, that works really well as long as it's one of those friends that you can actually, you won't like get distracted and start talking to. Or just been on the phone without talking, but they're there. Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I use a lot of timers. I didn't dive too deep into my timer system, but the app that I use, which I just highly recommend for ADHD people, it might not work for everyone. It works so well for me. It's called Llama Life. It's llamalife.co. It is so good. Because it forces you to set a timer. So I totally have the time blindness thing. It forces you to estimate the time that a task is going to take, make the list, and then you run the timer while you do the task. And then like a blaring alarm will go off. There's different settings for it. It also has emojis for all the tasks. So it gives me the novelty, but it's also very, very good for actually my like recommendations on it. Dean says, I am trying to recognize the pattern whereby money comes in and I instantly have an oh so interesting project. Yeah, that's like a really big struggle for a lot of us. I do a lot of pre-spending. Like I'll be like, oh, I'm going to get this big payday and then I'm going to buy this treat or whatever. And it is like extremely satisfying to me to like get the money come in and then feel like I can prioritize other goals at the same time as getting that boost. Iris Bear says, whenever I have money, I spend it. Well, that is one of the things that I think is really helpful about doing kind of the automatic account methods. I didn't talk a lot about hiding accounts from yourself, but I think this can be really good if you have impulse control issues. So one option is if you're trying to find a way to save money, build up a nest egg, hide the account. don't keep that savings at the same bank that your checking is out. So if you're one of those people that sees the number in the bank account and starts spending it in your mind, hide it. You can also, like, I use the don't touch fund, which is my taxes, and I have it in all caps for my tax savings account. And most banks will let you nickname your accounts. And I highly recommend, like, the vacation fund, the don't touch this fund, things that really, like, give me those, like, hard pulls. But one of the advantages of having that, like, savings account at a different bank is if you want to transfer it in, that is going to be an extra step. We know what people with ADHD hate: extra steps. So if you do have it at a farther bank, harder to access account like a CD or something like that, that can help with some of the impulse spending. And the automatic savings where it just you save before it ever comes to your account. So you get to spend whatever's left in the account, but whatever the percentage you want to save, if it's 5%, if it's 20%, if it's 50%, it goes into the savings before you ever see it, so you don't start spending it immediately. Iris Bear says, we need all the extra steps. I moved my savings to another bank. I need that. I had a boss who had, like, moved to a new job, and he was part-time it was a city job, so he was, like, part-time for the first, like, 6 months because of grants or whatever. And he was saying, like, yeah, when I first moved into this job, I was like, I was starting to get worried because it was, like, pretty tight for the family with me only, like, working part-time for the first 6 months, even though we knew it was coming. And then I remembered that I had been hiding money in a different bank. Like, I'd been auto transferring it from every paycheck. And I had this whole other account I forgot about. And that was exactly what it was for, was, like, because money was tight, because I was getting paid part-time for 6 months, but I knew I'd be getting paid more in the future. Sometimes an interesting project, but sometimes on whatever. Yeah, I know, it's really frustrating when the projects just appear all of a sudden. I mean, I totally recommend deciding to start a new planner Instagram that then justifies you getting planner specific expenses. They've always been tax deductible for me, but Iris Bear, what do you mean by an unreasonable timer limit? Like, too long? I do very short timer limits, and then it lets you add or subtract 5 minutes when it goes off. I do that, but I try to, like, estimate them. But yeah, you can set any amount that you want. I don't know what happens if you try to set, like, 48 hours or something. But it's more like, what I like about it is a thing that I struggle with to-do lists is that they'll have everything on it. They'll have every project I've ever wanted to do on my to-do list, and then I feel overwhelmed and I don't want to look at them. Llama Life will show you what time that day you'll be done if you do all your tasks like within the allotted amount. And it is extremely helpful because it'll show you what time you'll be done. So for me, it's really good because it gives me an idea about whether or not it's, like, concrete. And I really just fill it up for that day. Like, one of my first tasks every morning, so I have, like, a preloaded weekday list, and on a weekday, my first task on the list that I set the timer for is I get 10 minutes to load in all of my tickets from work into the to-do list. And that is the thing that is, like, really useful to me, is that I will load it in and it's only for that day. And then I'll know, like, okay, I'll be done by 4:30, and when I want to be done with work, if these all take this amount of time. Iris Bear says, like, 10 minutes to put on an apron. Some tasks we think will take longer than they actually do. Yeah, what I do like about it is that, like, tracking time over time will make you better at estimating how long tasks take. But yeah, I have like 10 minutes for myself to give myself a shot, which only takes me like a minute. And yeah, it does not take me 10 minutes usually to fill in my thing. So I have, like, quite a lot of those things, but what's nice is you get a hit complete when you're done, and confetti comes down on it. It's very satisfying to me. I do recommend it. It's actually just a website. You can use it on mobile, but it's not an app. I really like Llama Life. Okay, Flu for the week. We really should be done soon. This is a very ADHD live stream, in that I've been live streaming for 2 hours. So, okay. Floof of the week. Don't load it yet. I'm still trying to find it. Okay, we got so many pictures of this floof and floof of the week. Okay, floof of the week. We still need a little like sound for the floofs of the week. So floofs of the week are people that are part of the Personal Finance Society, which is people that support us on Patreon with $1 or more per month. And today's emergency floof of the week, because I actually didn't have one, is from Kenner on the Oh My Dollar forums, who is a patron. Thank you so much for supporting the Oh My Dollar work. Supports all of our live streams, transcripts, radio shows, and the workshops that we do with low-income youth and low-income adults on financial workshops, free to them. So thank you. This floof's name is Patch, and he generally spends his time playing with boxes for his own use and napping in a variety of places, claiming a wide selection of toys, and claiming all available shipping boxes for his own use. He does not appreciate dinners arriving late or humans not leaving enough space for him on the couch or whatever else the humans are that he also feels like being in. Look at this. Look at this face. Look at this face. Look at Patch. Oh my gosh. I got so many pictures from Kenner. I like this face. This is like absolutely no. Oh my gosh. Look at this one. Look at this one. Woof. I like this box face. All right, what's the cutest picture of Patch here? I really like that one. I think this is my favorite. This is how what I feel like when I have to check my bank account. I feel like this is a meme right here. This one. Maybe like objectively the cutest is maybe this one. They likes to hide their little face. I know, is it not so cute? Just the sound of me going squee is all you need. Can we all send in possible audio clips? That would be real and therefore best, in my humble opinion. That would be pretty great. You can send in audio. You can send in voicemails to the Oh My Dollar Radio Show. We take voicemails. And I cannot remember a voicemail number. It's in my show notes. But we have a voicemail number. I'll bring it up next time. But you can also email them into questions@ohmydollar.com if you leave like voice notes. Of all the boxes in all the towns, you had to take a picture of mine. Look how cute this little fluff is. Look at this fluff. Oh, this is a different floof of the week. Oops. So many good floofs. There we go. Oh, you found the Oh My Dollar voicemail. Good job. I'm glad you know what it is. Iris Bear says, shoot, radio show. Is that the podcast? Well, they're almost the same, but not quite the same. So radio show is the podcast, but it is cut for radio. So, yes, both and not. We air on multiple radio stations. We are syndicated by PRX, Public Radio Exchange, but yeah. But the podcast is a slightly different cut of it because I do not have to conform to FCC regulations, nor the time clocks. Although mostly it does, but yeah. Head desking cat heads are just, yes, they're so cute. Oh yeah, so what is my floof rating? My floof rating is 15 out of 10. Patch is very cute. Thank you for sharing with us, Kenner. And thank you for supporting Oh My Dollar on Patreon. All right, well, we've been streaming for 2 hours, even though we had that fun technical difficulty again. And I also don't know how much I ended up repeating myself on air because I just decided to rewind from the beginning. If you are watching this in the replay, then most likely, if you're watching this in the replay, then most likely I have cut it out. Maybe I might edit it in YouTube, the like whole technical glitch, just because it's annoying to watch. Iris Bear says, how do we get radio in, say, Minneapolis? Send me a local public radio or college station that you think would be a good fit for the Oh My Dollar brand, and I will pitch them. Because I would love to be in Minneapolis. I am not yet in Minneapolis. But yeah, I am happy to reach out to radio stations if you've got one in mind. I can reach out to them through PRX. So Dean Jones says, it's been great though, like hanging out with friends like minds. Well, thank you all for joining for this extremely long live stream. If you are a planner person that hung on to the end, I promise I will try to upload a planner video soon. I also have a planner Instagram now. It only has like 3 pictures on it thus far, but I decided to move it off my main. So it is Planomalily, like Anomalily, the name of this channel, but Planomalily on Instagram. So I'm posting stuff over there. And you can find it. You can follow that if you want to see stuff in between. Iris Bear says, I am trying to be a planner. Technical glitch was pretty short. Great. Iris Bear says, sounds like some steps. No, all you have to do is email me at questions@ohmydollar.com with the name of a local radio station that you listen to. That being said, if you listen to the podcast, you're getting it. And if you were not on last week, the podcast is coming back for a relaunch. We have worked out the technical issues, so it is coming back. We are taking some old episodes. I'm doing re-intros for them, but yeah. Dean says, what is this word plan of which you speak? You know, not everybody needs to have a plan. Also, once again, I spent $70 on planner stickers this week, so I literally have no... So it was a planned expense. I did think about it for many weeks. I waited more than 24 hours after filling my cart, and in the end, I decided to get it because I had done a hard thing that I needed to do, and because I was able to use Amex points on it. So I just sort of wrote it off for myself, but yeah. Planner stickers are fun. They are fun. I have not really ever been someone that's gotten a ton of planner stickers, but I sell a lot of stickers, like Oh My Dollar stickers, and the fact that can I show you the stack that I sent out today? Hold on. It will get sent out. Oh, it's being fetched for me. So, the last round, I finally did the last round of Patreon mailers today. So all of the Personal Finance Society members that are active right now that haven't gotten them yet, look at how many envelopes I did. Oh, there we go. I'll turn around, make sure it's not, there we go. But yeah, I did this many envelopes today I stuffed, and these all contain at least 3 sets of sticker sheets for the Personal Finance Society. So, and they're going all over the world. So hopefully I didn't show an address on air. I don't think I did. But yes. Dean says, ooh, you were in there. So we'll see when it shows up in the UK. But I stuffed yours and wrote yours today. So your stickers are perfect. So the thing that I did last week, one of the reasons I justified buying planner stickers for myself was that I did a 500 sheet order for a replacement. I am down to 2 sets of these, 2 like full sets of these stickers, which come with every one of my books. And I've, had, I think, over 3,000 of these sticker sheets ordered over the years. But we decided to redo the layout because I'm going with a different printer that is allowing me to do more kiss cuts, because these have 12 kiss cuts on them. And this printer, I love the print quality, but it's pretty expensive and they charge me by the kiss cut. And then this new place, they don't charge you by the kiss cut. They just, have the setup distance that you can do. So it's kind of limited by the size of the kiss cuts and stuff like that. We finally did the setup and sent it to the new printer. So I really hope they're going to be good quality. But after spending like $400, $300 on the stickers for Oh My Dollar, to restock inventory prior to that, that I really felt like I could buy some stickers just for myself, not my own brand stickers. So Dean says it's usually very fast, actually, less than 5 days last time, I think. Yeah, that was pre-Brexit. Sorry. Shipping times all over the world are a mess. And USPS just slowed down shipping times. I mailed stuff to Australia, and usually Australia, it takes a while, but usually it doesn't take more than like 20 days for first class mail to get there from the US. And I had stuff that I mailed in June that still has not showed up. So it's been quite bad. But yeah, of international ones going, I think I have a bunch going to Canada, a couple going to the UK, one going to Estonia, and a couple going to Australia, and one going to Korea. So we'll see what happens with that from the folks. But yeah, Brexit is just a mess. Shipping is really chaotic right now. Here's what my just random advice as like a person who runs a business on the internet, which I'm so glad is not my full-time job right now because oof. If you are planning to order anything for the holidays, just order it like now. Because supply chains mean that like everybody is so stressed, everybody's dealing with shortages this year. Like if the stuff that you want is available, just get it now. Like Black Friday sales are not going to be like the same that they have been in years past. If you are trying to ship stuff internationally, like actual presents internationally, some people have been seeing like 65 plus days, business days to like go for international shipping right now. So if you need to ship gifts for end of year internationally, you technically need to have done it like last week. So Ursula says USPS at the end of the calendar year. I'm dreading it, and I'm not a nonprofit professional or a small business. Yeah, I mean, the stamp prices already went up last week. Things have already been slowing down a ton, I've noticed, from USPS. But yeah, it's been really frustrating. Iris Bear says, go to the brick and mortar stores this year. Do they exist still? Because most of them don't exist. Sorry to say. Also, whether or not going to brick and mortar stores makes sense might depend on your own health and your vaccination levels and everything, but most of the brick and mortars have been closed where I live. So, you know, like I skate in a mall every day. And there's like 3 businesses left other than the skating rink. It's like there's nothing in the mall. So, and I used to work in that mall, like at Starbucks during the holidays, and even then it was already dying. So yeah. Ursula says end of year fundraising campaign cycle. Eeks! Yeah, I will say that like part of the reason that I write, because I know a lot of people, like I don't have that many Patreons, but I have a lot compared to a lot of other people. I have like 106, a lot less than other people, you know, whatever. I'm in like the middle of the pack for the number of patrons I have. But a lot of people are like, I can't believe you like handwrite notes to all of them on them. And I'm like, oh my God, I was a nonprofit fundraiser for years. All I did from November through January was every night I would come home with a stack of thank yous like this big and just like sign and write notes on all of them. So I also did personal notes on every single one of my Kickstarters, and so that was like thousands of packages between the two of them. So yeah, it did say if possible, but my phone is dumb. Yeah, I know. It's just like, ugh, I don't even know. I also don't know. People are wild. I don't know if I want to be out in the world. Iris Bear says, your handwritten notes mean a lot. This is the thing. I was trained in nonprofits, so I believe in the power of the handwritten note. And I also have a lot of tactics, even though I have not great hands. I have learned how to be able to do it sustainably for myself. So, and I like writing them. It's nice. It like gives me a nice, it feels like I just, when I saw a lot of people's names in the chat, I like saw them and I felt like I had just communicated with you because I had written a lot of people notes this week on their like Patreon notes or their like Budget Olympics stickers and stuff. And I keep forgetting that like almost none of you have gotten those yet. And I didn't really communicate with you. I like wrote you a note, but I feel like I had just like kind of seen you. So anyway, I like doing it. Especially because I get to like read so much about people's lives on the forums and their journals and everything. So it's nice to be able to write them a note and also say thank you for making because oh my god, the Patreon has been the bulk of the Oh My Dollar income this year. And it's made like everything we've done possible because I have not been pursuing like media work. Like I had done more media work last year and even more the year before. And it pays well, but because I am doing a day job, I only have time really to do the workshops and the live streams and the Patreon stuff. And if I'm doing the nonprofit workshops, I just can't be constantly going and pitching and trying to get media work and stuff like that. So it has been really nice. So Dean says, I was really very touched when I got the first one and saw a handwritten note, honestly. See? And this is also how I feel, like, because I worked in fundraising for so long, I know the staff at almost every organization I give to, and most of the organizations I give to from a charity perspective are organizations I work with through the Oh My Dollar Pay It Forward program. So, like, I know the staff because I go teach financial workshops there. But, like, I feel really excited, even if it's just, like, a quick, like, hope you're doing well and your cat is doing well or whatever, like, I just feel very happy. I worked at a bike nonprofit, and so every time I, like, knew someone personally, I try to draw their bike on it, because I'm very good at drawing bikes very fast after years of signing hundreds of them, so. Iris Bear says, maybe next year will be better. Yeah, for me, I'm definitely going to have more, I'm going to have less structured time next year. And I think that will make it potentially easier for me to do maybe more media work. But honestly, it's been kind of nice to not have to go seek it out. But yeah, I would like to be able to strategize a bit more. All right. One of the lights went off, which is a sign that we've been streaming too long. So we are really going to close this up. Thank you all for joining for such a long live stream. Go follow Planomalily if you like that kind of content. Otherwise, I hope to see you on the Oh My Dollar forums for Budgetober. We just did our first check-in, but if you want to join late, I'll let you in, and then you can get some cute Halloween cat stickers. And please share any tips that I didn't share in the stream for budgeting with ADHD on the forums or email them to questions@ohmydollar.com. And thank you all for joining. Have a good night. Please pet a cat if you have one available. Drink some water. Be nice to yourself. Bye.